Listen to this episode if you have big goals in your business and you want to know how to actually achieve them faster. Today, we're going to talk about how to reverse engineer your business growth and why this is one of the biggest areas of mistakes for many scaling brands. When we really talk about big goals, achieving big things, really being ambitious, which I know the people here listening to this podcast, you have big goals. You want to be different than the average out there. You aren't going to settle for where you're at in life. You really want to see those big things come to fruition, whether that be you want to have your business acquired for $50 million, or you want to get into Sam's Club or Anthropology, or you want to be able to retire your husband and be home with your kids and have financial freedom and life freedom in general. Whatever that might look like for you, everybody's growth plan is a little different. You have these big ambitions, but what you also have is a lot of things on your plate in order to get there. And so today we're going to talk about how to actually reverse engineer this business growth, because what happens is a lot of times we're so stuck working in our business, even working on the business that we currently have, that we never actually take time away to see what do we have to change and what do we have to reevaluate, that we aren't actually moving towards those bigger goals. A lot of times we can kind of get complacent in our routines and habits that we never do a major shakeup to allow for us to really shake up the outcomes that we are getting. Today, I want to talk about how to actually reverse engineer your big time goals sooner, because odds are the goal that you have right now, that's like this someday goal, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, this is where you really want to be, isn't actually that far away. You just have to take the right actions starting today in order to actually get there. A lot of people get kind of stuck in this working in the current stage, and we're going to kind of break us out of that today. Before I get too deep in, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. If you're new here, I am the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast. Here, I teach you how to turn a small business into a brand that has longevity, sustainability, and freedom at the absolute core of everything that you do. We help build companies. We help build brands. And this is a major conversation that we need to have around building a brand today. I saw a statistic the other day that said less than 40% of you are actually subscribed to this podcast, even though you come back every single week to listen to our episodes. Make sure right now that you follow the show. Not only does it push this episode out to more people that might need it, it also allows me to scale my production and really helps me grow, as well as it helps you not have to go and search for the episode every time that you want to watch it. I know that so many brands have these like milestones in their head. They'll be like, once I get to X, Y, and Z point, then I will finally try to start here. And honestly, this happened to me within these last couple of months. I gave a TED Talk in April, and I have been somebody since like a young age. I've just been that crazy person that loves to public speak. I love to speak in front of crowds. I say it all the time. I was nervous for my TED Talk, but like you could put me in front of a crowd tomorrow of 1,000 people and just tell me to chit chat, and I would be just fine chit chatting away. However, I've always kind of wanted to speak in my business, but I never actually was taking the actions to get there, because I said, that's like a someday task. That's on my someday list that, once I get to this certain point, once I feel like I'm at X, Y, and Z point, or I have X amount of followers, or I'm at this certain point, then I will start to pursue that. And it wasn't until I had TED actually reach out to me to speak at their place, at their event, that I said, why am I waiting to actually start speaking? Even though that is a major piece of my business that I want to have for the rest of my life. It's something that I really enjoy. It's something that I really know that I want to do. Why am I waiting? And I knew that I was also stuck in this. So just to be totally transparent, you're not alone here. I'm not alone. I know that this happens because it happens for a lot of my clients. But what it really comes down to is our actions now dictate where we'll be in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years, in 5 years. And if you aren't strategically taking those actions now, a lot of times it's actually, you're kind of pushing back when you actually achieve those overall goals. So today I want to talk about how do we really reverse engineer growth, because growth really is engineered. It's not, doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen from being consistent over time, all of the time. You have to take the proper actions in order to get there, especially when it comes to like big goals, big dreams, big changes, pivots. You want to be here, but you're kind of being here for now because you know that that's where you need to be. You need to have a strategic plan. So really the overall mistake that I hear a lot from my clients when I ask them, what is your long-term goal within your business? This is where people don't really have a solid plan. We all have this vision, we want this successful business, we want this like thriving business, and you might have a dollar amount that you would really love to make, but you don't really have this long-term goal. Whether that be you want your business to be acquired, whether that be you want to have a full team and you want to build out your mass production line, or you want to be in stores or nationwide, or maybe you want to go to a global presence, or you want to license, or you want to franchise, or whatever that might be for your brand. Right now, you might just be building to build. Right now you're just building to create more sales, but you don't actually have this long-term plan, which means you might not actually be utilizing the right strategies in order to get there. Right now, if you were to come to me and say, I'm trying to build my brand to sell it in 5 to 10 years and really want to I just need to get to that point that I can sell my brand name, sell the likeness, and kind of get a quick payout, call it good. Honestly, I've had clients that do that. They come to me, they say, I know I have this really brilliant idea. I need to build it to the point of it having a certain level of evaluation, and then I just want to sell it and get out and not have to worry about it. That's it. In a way, that is a direction that people go with business. Another direction is that people want to have this mass market approach. They want to be wholesale. They want to be in stores nationwide. They want to be in Walmarts and Targets and CVS's and Walgreens. That is a different approach than trying to sell it. Some of my clients just want to have a D2C community. Some of my clients are like, yeah, I want to have a really ride or die online community and eventually open storefronts in major cities nationwide. Those are very different approaches for all three of those different levels of building your business. Now, there are a bunch of things that you can do and, a bunch of long-term plans that you might have. However, your strategies that you are following now are setting you up for that growth. Now, if we're trying to build to sell, really all we're doing is trying to get really solid numbers, really solid visibility, and really build some brand awareness and kind of penetrate into household name territory. It's okay, people know me within my industry. These are the numbers that we have, and go from there. Now, if you're trying to go wholesale, we're looking for very different benchmarks and very different numbers, rather than if you're trying to just build a $5 million direct to consumer brand so you have enough capital to actually open up storefronts. Those three strategies are going to look very different. So when we reverse engineer growth, you have to know what your long-term plan is. And your long-term plan can't just be, I'm just trying to grow my business. I have a lot of people say that as I'm just trying to increase my sales every year. I'm just trying to increase my profitability every year. Where yes, that is growth. We need to know what direction you're trying to build it. In a perfect world, and it's okay if this changes too. I just want to say is I know so many of you are who knows where my business is going to be in 5 years? Who knows where my business is going to be in 10 years? We just want a general outline of what you're trying to do and how you are trying to grow it and what it means in 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, or what your overall goal is. If your goal is to build being a public figure around this brand, your social media now is going to look different than it would if you're just trying to build, a mass market approach. So everything adjusts based on your overall goals. So if you don't actually have this long-term vision, sometimes people get stuck in kind of this limbo of just growing and just trying to increase revenue, but then all of a sudden they're 3 years down the line and they've just been trying to increase revenue. But if they were actually taking the action in order to get into more wholesale opportunities or to sell their business, they might already be at that point of it being possible if they just reverse engineered it. So step one of reverse engineering your business growth is really identifying, in a perfect world, what would your business look like? Like, why are you growing your business? What is the mission? What is the level of business that you're trying to go? And like, from a business standpoint, where are you trying, what are you trying to build? What is the mission that you're building? Are you building a community? Are you building, a direct to consumer? Are you building wholesale? Are you building to sell? Are you building to go IPO? Like, what is your major building goal? Because I know a lot of people don't have it. They're like, oh, well, I just want to be more profitable, or, oh, I just want to make more money. I just want to be able to pay myself $100,000 a year, which is all well and fine. However, we need to know deeper than those. We need to know a little bit deeper than that. So first things first is I want you to have a clear 3 to 5 year plan, or just like, what is your ultimate goal? It doesn't even need to put a year date on it. What is that ultimate goal? Know where you are building and what you want out of your business at some point. And if it changes, we can always change it, but at least we know that we're building for something. Once you have that clear plan, I want you to really look at that and say, what are the major objectives that I need to do in order to get there? Because most of it is not just going to be, let me just try to grow my sales online. That is not what the actual overall goal is for many brands, for many kind of outlets that they're trying to, for many goals that people actually have. Those major objectives might be, let's say that you are trying to grow wholesale and you're trying to go very mass market. That might be just having major brand awareness. You know that you need a certain level of brand awareness. You know you need a certain level of quantity of an order to get your costs to a certain level. You know that you need to have people understand your branding in a different way, at a more mass market approach, and really understanding your messaging. It might mean a focus on your packaging. It means different pieces than if you are just trying to sell online and build a direct to consumer brand that sells $50 million a year. So what are those major kind of objective steps? And I had somebody say this the other day, is like, I think it's almost easier to look at it from this perspective. As somebody said, all right, I want to be a stand-up comedian, having that be their like long-term goal in life. All right, what do I need to be a stand-up comedian? The major objectives that I need is, I need to be recognized. I need to like start practicing in front of crowds. I know that I need to get some video of myself in order to kind of start building that. And I know I need to build a social media platform in order to do those things. And so if you're looking at that, those are kind of like your overarching major objectives. What do you need to achieve? What are those big milestones that you need to get? You need, for some of you, it's going to be getting a 3PL, which is a fulfillment center. For some of you, it's going to be scaling your production, getting better equipment. Like, what are some of those major milestones that you need in order to make this big time goal happen? So we're reverse engineering it, saying, all right, this is the goal. How do I make that goal happen? What are the major milestones before I get there? And then we can kind of look at saying, what is the chronological first step in order to actually make that happen? So looking at the stand-up comedian, what are some of those logical first steps that you need to make? So, okay, I want to be a stand-up comedian, which means I need to be more recognized, which means I need to have a larger community on social media, which means I need to start building videos of me speaking, which means I need to start speaking at a more regional level. So we kind of want to ask ourselves, all right, if you're like, which means we need to do this, which means we need to do this, which means we need to do this. You kind of have to elaborate on every single milestone. And so we're kind of looking at what that overall growth plan is. So for you, if your goal is to have a $50 million direct-to-consumer business that allows you to open up a New York City brick and mortar store at some point, that's really that's your I made it moment. This is, oh my gosh, this is like, the end game. This is really what I want. Okay, so that means that I need to have a presence in New York City, which means I need to have a more global presence, which means I need a certain look that really fits it, which means I need to build a social media that really fits all of these vibes and that can allow for my brand awareness to go out there, which means I need to, really build that community and figure out what all of that goes. So you're kind of starting at the end goal. My end goal is to have a brick and mortar store in New York City, which means I need to be able to afford that and have it actually make a good amount of sales, which means I need a global audience, ads, which means I need to find really solid ways of getting brand awareness, which means I need to start really building on social media, which means I need to start working with influencers in order to help me get there, which means I need to really figure out what my branding is, what the image is before I get all of this brand awareness, so I know that I don't have to pivot and I don't have to rebrand. If that is kind of like that final which means to like where you are right now, those should be the things that you are working on right now. That is what that final, like that first step is in order to get there. And then we need to actually identify our habits and saying, is this something that we're doing? And I know a lot of you are going to be like, yeah, Maddie, I'm just trying to grow on social media and then I'll figure that out. But social media isn't the end all be all of every single action that you can be taking. Because again, if you're just trying to build to sell, that looks a little bit different. If you're trying to build to have a wholesale, that looks a little bit different. All of your marketing switches based on what that overall goal is. So your level of marketing, your type of marketing, your style of marketing changes based on what your long-term goal is. But what happens is you get to this point of I'm just trying to grow on social media, that all of a sudden you're 3 years down the line and you haven't reached out to a wholesaler and you haven't looked at, these different major steps within that overall kind of funnel that we were just looking at. So when we're looking at reverse engineering, what I want you to do is first have that clear, someday, this is my big goal. This is really what I want out of my brand. And then I want you to figure out what those major objectives are and those major milestones in order for you to get there. And then I need you to reverse engineer all of the steps to achieve those major milestones. So if you have those major milestones, here's the end goal. You have a bunch of different major milestones. You need X amount of dollars, you need X amount of followers and brand awareness and like penetration into homes and things like that. You need all of these different milestones. Then you can say, all right, which means let me fill in the gaps between these things. What do I need to do? And now you just have like a 5-10 year plan in front of you. Now you know what actions you need to take in order to get to those major steps. Now all you have to do is change your habits. If I looked at your actions right now, if I looked at your calendar right now, is it reflective of this end goal? Is this reflective of this long-term vision? A major mistake that business owners have that want to have seven-figure, multi-seven-figure, major brands that really want to become the next household name, they lack that long-term vision. They lack understanding of what these major milestones are and how can we actually get to this point. This is how we do it, is we fix our actions of what we're doing today based on the major milestones that you need to hit in order to get to this this final kind of goal of what you would love to have. Too many people get complacent and just keep building revenue, and they never actually focus on expanding their business, expanding or change their actions to fit the overall goal. Right now, I have clients that are making $500,000 a year in their business that I say, all right, what's your long-term goal here? So we're working together now, you want to grow. What are we trying to grow to do? Because you have a successful business. You have, 15% overall profit margin. You made $500,000 last year. What is your next goal? Because we can really start making some changes to make that happen. You have numbers, you have proof of concept, we have analytics, we have profit, we have good profit margin. We know everything is working. Now it's time to expand. Now it's time to scale. Now it's time to hit those next levels. What are we doing now? And they're like, I don't know. I just want more sales. I don't know. I just want more money. And eventually I'll figure out what I want to do with my brand. But that lack of long-term vision is actually postponing you from really ever reaching that long-term goal. If your goal is to be a certain direct to consumer, you want to have $1 million direct to consumer brand, that's fine. But we need to know what that looks like, why you want to hit that milestone. And it has to be deeper than, well, I just want to be able to make a certain amount of money, or I just want to be able to hit that milestone. Because why? I have a lot of clients that say, I want to have a 7-figure brand. And I say, why? Why is it 7 figures that really tickles your fancy? What is it about 7 figures that sounds so great? Or is it just, for the gold star of 7 figures on your name? What is that? What is your long-term goal? What is that long-term play? And what would you do with your business? And then what once you hit the kind of that 7-figure mark? If you are unsure and you're looking at these things and you're saying, Maddie, I have no idea what my long-term vision is. Maddie, I really have no idea of even how to get there. If you do have a long-term vision, you don't have any objectives. This is really what I do with a lot of my clients is they tell me their long-term goal and they're like, but I have no idea how to hit that. I'm just like posting on social media and hoping for growth, but you're actually holding yourself back so much because you have way more growth in front of you and you're dampening your potential. You're dampening, I think is the word. You're dampening your potential that you could actually be hitting 750,000. You could be hitting those major milestones by now, but you just don't know what they are or what you are trying to build in order to get there. So as an ambitious person, as somebody that I know that you have big goals, you know that you're made for more, you know that you're ready for those things, don't allow your brain of like having all of these someday tasks or you're feeling like you need to make a certain amount of money before you start chasing those next big goals. Don't allow yourself to just get stuck in this building phase, in this phase of I'm just scaling my sales, because a lot of people come to me and I'm like, girly, you've hit the numbers. Like you've hit the numbers that allow us to try to do some of those things. Why aren't we trying to reach out to wholesalers? Why aren't we trying to make bigger inventory purchases? Why aren't we trying to scale in that way? And that is where this conversation starts. Why aren't you doing it now? We need to look at this long-term vision in order to transform your overall actions. Because if you show me your actions today, you show me where you will be in 3 years. You show me where you'll be in 1 year. You'll show me the growth that you will see year over year over year. And so if you're trying to aim for this big goal, you need those objectives today in order to hit those big goals at some point. And if you don't know what those objectives are, I would absolutely love to help you pinpoint those and help kind of point you in that direction. It's something that I do with my clients all of the time. That's like the action plan that they are given. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that this was eye-opening of like, shoot, do I actually have this long-term plan? Are my actions really lining up with where I'm at in my business right now? Like I said, only 40% of you are following this podcast, which is insane. Make sure that you hit that follow button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps me. It helps you. It helps other people, and the world goes round. So make sure that you hit that subscribe, hit that follow. You will be notified every time that we post an episode, which is every Tuesday and Friday. If you are interested in learning more about how to turn your small business into a brand, make sure that you hang out with us here, as well as follow me on social media at This Is Madison Page. You can find me there. I would absolutely love to connect. I always love hearing from you there. I hope this was helpful. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you in the next episode.